Laura, I was thinking about this. Let's talk about why it's a horrible idea for a buyer to go into buying new construction without a realtor. And then after you get done with that, I really want to get your opinion on what you're seeing in the market, because the stories I'm hearing are crazy when it comes to new construction. Cost of lumber, crazy things we've never seen before. And I really want to have you break that down and give us some examples of what you're seeing.
Oh yeah, I'm seeing all kinds of stuff. I'm seeing clients getting lied to. One of the things I've seen and I've been hearing examples of is there's clauses written into these proprietary builder contracts now that say even once you sign a contract, we've agreed on a price, but they have the right to raise that price during the executory period or during the time you're waiting for the house to be built because the cost of supplies has gone up.
That's crazy. Have you ever seen that before? What you're now just seeing right now in the summer of 2021?
I've never seen that. I mean, it's probably been in, contracts before. I mean, builders don't use promulgated forms. They have their own contracts and they're typically upwards of 50 to 70 pages. So you don't know all the fine print for every builder, but that's why it's so important to have a realtor that can review that contract with you. I always tell people, go ahead and send it to your attorney too. But you can really pick apart a new builder contract or a new home contract. But for the most part, you just want to make sure that any clauses like that can really get you in a bad position, you want to be aware of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The other thing I'm seeing is realtors that are not represented. I see this all the time. I get phone calls about this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Buyers that are not represented. It's been a long day. So a lot of people, number one, they go to buy new construction without being represented, without having a buyer's agent. They do that because they just don't think it's needed. They didn't know that they could have one. They just don't think about it. They go out, they go in a model home, they're starry-eyed. Next thing they know, they're sitting down at the sales consultant's desk and they're negotiating, and they don't even know they're negotiating. So I see that a lot. The other thing I see about 50% of the time is a buyer will go straight to the builder, and whether this is a popular like tract home builder like Perry or Ashton Woods or Weston, whatever it is, or all of the private independent builders all over Houston, people go in and they think, hey, I'm not represented. The money you would have paid my realtor, can you go ahead and give that to me in some way? Whether they get it credited in some way, take it off the price of the house. And I can tell you right now, that's never going to happen. When you do that, they might tell you that they're crediting it in some way or let you think you're getting a deal, but you're not. You're completely naked going into this transaction, and you're not getting the money back. And I can promise you that somewhere along the way, you're going to hit some type of obstacles or disagreements. You're going to get a funny feeling that you're being taken advantage of because you are, and you have nobody to go to bat for you to protect you. So I have a story about this. I have a client that just moved here from California. She went under contract on a house in December. It was a new build, dirt build, which means she chose the lot. She said, this is the floor plan I want, and they start building it.
Picked out the cabinets, the granite, all that fun stuff.
She did all of that.
Flooring.
Yes. So originally they told her it would be about like 5 months to completion. Obviously, all this craziness happened with the market at the beginning of the year. And so it pushed the completion date back. Many times. She was supposed to close way earlier than she did. Then they were telling her that the price of lumber went up, that they can't get supplies. They're waiting on supplies. I mean, this just went on and on and on and on. So it comes down to closing, and about 5 days before closing, and we get the prelim CD, we get the lending statement, we see all of these different fees and everything, and she calls me. She's hysterical. She's like, I'm not going to be able to buy this house. I've been waiting all this time for this house. I'm moving from out of state. My house out here is already sold. I have nowhere to go. She's moved. She has a new job that she's starting out here. So that's already underway. She's, living with parents until she can move into this house. And they tell her that she's going to need to bring, it was something outrageous, like an extra $9,000 to closing that she wasn't prepared for. Okay. This is where I can talk shit a little bit about in-house lenders with builders. They had forgotten to apply the earnest money she put down on the house. So that was number one.
Okay.
They forgot to apply that. And I can tell you right now, if I didn't catch that, they would never have applied it. Okay.
That's awful.
They just forgot to apply it. The second thing was they told her they had a discount point on there for like $4,500, and this house was not a high price point.
Yeah.
I was like, they've got you. I said, did you know that you were buying down your rate? She was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't even know what that means. I said, well, you've got a discount point on here. She was like, I have no idea what that is. I said, all right. I said, listen, I need you to email your lender and tell them that I have permission to talk to them. She did it immediately. I got on the phone with them and I ripped that statement apart. Yeah. I ripped it apart. And sure enough, they took care of it. By the time closing came around, they had removed all the fees.
They figured she wouldn't know, right? Like
they were 100% taking advantage of her. Yeah. It was not even a question. So I was like, don't worry, we're going to get this fixed. But yeah, they will insert fees anywhere they can. I actually was like, I want to send this to Dave just for fun so you can see what's going on out there.
Yeah.
The fees they were charging were asinine. The fees I normally see you charge, the same exact fee was quadruple what I normally see. So they were just, and this is a very popular builder out there, and it's in a very lowish, I'd say more moderately priced home. So we're talking, $300,000 or under. I tell everybody there isn't a lot of profit margins on these homes, and they figure out where to get their money.
And they knew they had her in a spot, right? Based on her situation, yes. Based on waiting 7 months and delays to
yes.
close.
Yes.
What were her options? It was a yes or a no right. type situation.
Well, what they were hoping is that her loan would fall out and she wouldn't be able to close. And the same house was going for about $100,000 more than what she had paid.
God, that's nuts.
So she told me, she said, I feel like they're wanting this to fall apart. And I was right. like, they absolutely are. Because if this house goes back on the market, they're going to make an extra $100,000.
Yep.
So they want your loan to fall apart. So if she hadn't had representation, I honestly don't know what would have happened.
No, you're right. I think another additional thing, if I can add in.
Absolutely.
Is the realtor knows what the builder is selling those homes for in the market. They know mm-hmm. and they have the data. So a lot of normal clients like myself, right, that would go in not knowing or assuming if the builder tells me it's a good deal or the price is going up Monday, mm-hmm. I'm going to believe them.
Yeah. They tell everybody, it's about to be a price increase.
Right. You know that's mm-hmm. a sales tactic.
Absolutely.
To me, I'm going to take that at face value. Mm-hmm. So you need representation to know if it's a good deal. You need representation for proms. You need representations for being overcharged. You need representation for going to the design center and figuring out if
Absolutely.
The cabinets or the granite is a good decision.
Well, you get so swept away. It's happened to me. I mean, I'm familiar with building a house from scratch. And one of the things, you have to remember, they build these model homes specifically. They invest millions of dollars to make sure that they are getting into the psychology of somebody's mind, yep. everything down to the scent that they put into the house. So you walk in that model home and you are just wooed by everything. And this is something else that I see. This has happened to clients before. They say, okay, well, we're going to go look at model homes this weekend. I'm like, get a hold of yourself before you go in. Like, take a deep breath, ground yourself. Do not get carried away.
Yep.
Because before you know it, you're like, wow, I really like this house. You ask the sales consultant, are you guys still building this floor plan? Next thing you know, they've got you writing a check. They're like, oh, you like this lot? Well, guess what? There's 10 other people looking at it. I had somebody in here yesterday that almost got it. And you're creating that sense of urgency.
Yeah, 100%.
And the other thing is a lot of people don't realize so many of these, especially, popular builders out there in these master plan communities, the way they get you to sign the contract is on an iPad. They present an iPad to you and they're like, okay, just sign right there. You're giving them the money to hold the lot. It might be $2,000, $3,500, $5,000, whatever it is. You give them that. They're like, okay, well, let's just hold this so nobody else gets it. When you sign, you're not holding a lot. You are under contract to buy a house. I cannot tell you how many times someone's called me and said, all right, well, we put money down on a lot. I'm like, so you're under contract? No, we just put money down. I'm like, no, you are under contract. If you might leave a check there for them to hold the check.
Right.
But that doesn't mean the lot is yours. If the lot belongs to you, you've gone under contract.
Right.
And they seriously they haven't fully wrapped their head around that because they went in not intending to buy. And they just got caught up in all of the beautiful things that they see. I mean, those model homes are just, you drool when you go in there.
Yeah, they don't do the cheap upgrades, right? In the model homes, like it's always the nicest stuff. Well, in that contract, so at that point, they're also kind of sold on the idea, well, hey, if I change my mind, it's not a big deal. But it is a big deal because now they've signed a binding contract, right?
Yeah. You were under contract on a house. Just like if you went to a resale home and you put a contract down. And yeah, you might have 5 or 7 or 14 days to back out, but it's not that easy. I mean, these builders, they've got a 100-page contract that you're signing for a reason. They know how to get you.
Right.
They get a hold of you.
Yeah.
So if anything goes wrong, and then people don't realize, okay, yeah, awesome, we went under contract, we're going to build this house, and then they go to the design center, and they're like, okay, well, you just picked out $40,000 in upgrades, and you need to give us 10% down of those upgrades right now. And they're like, wait, what? I thought we were financing this. I thought the upgrades go on to the price of the house. Yeah, they do, but you've got to give us 10% right now.
And they do that because they're also holding you in there. Mm-hmm. They're also doing that because if your upgrades are ugly and then they have to sell that house because you back out or get denied,
right?
They want some type of commitment on your part to offset some of that loss.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's nuts. I mean, especially because a lot of people walk into the home building process like it's going to be this wonderful, beautiful process with the red carpets rolled out and everything else. And the truth of the matter is, from start to finish, it's very stressful.
Oh, very much so.
Like it's not a walk in the park.
And you don't, I mean, I always say if you're going to buy new construction, the best way, in my opinion, the best way to buy new construction is to find an inventory home that somebody else had purchased and was planning on buying and their financing fell through. And now you have a house that probably has a bunch of upgrades in it that they weren't going to put on a spec home.
Right.
And it's sitting there and the builder, it's probably maybe one of the last ones on the street and they just need to get it gone. And you can get a good deal that way. That's kind of like a unicorn.
Right.
But they do exist. But the next way is inventory, an inventory home.
When you know what you're getting. Like building a home from the ground up seems very exciting, is very stressful with a lot of things that can come up that need to be addressed. And if you're not represented, how do you even know if they need to get addressed? How do you know the foundation was poured right? How do you know if the framing was done right?
And a lot of people don't know. They have no idea that if they are doing a dirt build, there's 3 different checkpoints where you are allowed as the consumer, as the home buyer, you can go out there and have an inspection and walk the property with the builder to put your eyes on. It's when they do the foundation and then they stud it out, and you can do that. You can also get your own inspector right before closing for $300, $400, $500. You can get an inspector in there before closing and make sure there's nothing wrong with the house, because if there is, you can hand over that inspection report and be like, we ain't closing on this until you guys fix all this shit.
Well, and I would say, especially by what you're hinting, that's a must.
I tell everybody to do that.
How would you have you're going to rely on the builder saying the builder built a perfect home?
Correct.
I have yet to meet a builder who said, man, I built a really crappy home.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, everybody that builds houses, every single one is perfect and beautiful. But I have a story about that. I had some people that were buying in Ashton Woods, and I love Ashton Woods. I lived in one and loved it. But nothing against the builder or the company, but it was at the time, this was several years ago, and at that point in time, it was almost $500,000. So they were spending a good amount of money on this house, and you would assume that on a house that expensive, everything would be done right.
Yep.
I was like, listen, you guys, just get your own inspection. Well, they said that we are going to get to walk it. I'm like, you're not an expert. You need somebody up in the attic and everything else checking all of this. So they got an inspection. That was one of the worst inspections I've ever seen, and it was a new construction house.
But you assume it's going to be all perfect. It's brand new.
The inspector found that one of the flexible plastic pipes upstairs that goes to the water heater was disconnected. And it would have been where the way that it was, I don't know exactly, but if they had started running the water in the house, to run the bathtub, it would have flooded up there. So obviously we got it fixed. I was like, we are not going to the closing table until this is fixed.
Yeah.
But you know what the builder was saying? Well, even if that had happened, that we would have fixed it after the fact. I'm like, well, who wants to buy a $500,000 house, have it flooded with water and get sheetrock and insulation and everything all wet, and then have it fixed? That's not optimal.
And how do you know that the fixing was going to be done correctly?
Right.
What happens if it got mold? What happens That's a slippery slope.
Yeah. I mean, I could sit here for hours and talk about new construction nightmares.
Yeah.
I love new construction houses. I'm a new construction girl. I love them. But you just have to make sure that you have somebody that's protecting you. And it's not going to be the builder. The salesperson works for the builder. And the salesperson is always your very, very best friend when you are in there looking at houses. And then I will tell you right now, once you sign that contract, boom, you never hear from them again.
100%. And look, new construction is fine. All we're saying is you need to be represented, or you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Right.
And to piggyback on that, the other phase of new construction is financing.
Yep.
So they want you to use their in-house lender. It's set up like this for a reason. They want to keep everything in-house. This in-house lender, they might not be good at what they do.
Oh, 100%. Or the incentives that they attach to it. Sometimes the incentives are very strong and it forces you to not have a choice. Some incentives they charge, like they'll say, I'm going to credit you $3,000 back, but they're charging you $3,000 more than a normal lender would charge.
They took it from you up somewhere else it has some name of some fee. You don't even know what it is. They got the money and then they just credited you back and said, oh, we're paying your title policy. It's like, no, you're not. I paid for it. And they could have gone and gotten a better rate and a better experience with an outside lender. I mean, we've done deals together where I said, hey, here's what the in-house lender quoted. Can you beat it? And you looked and broke down you had to request the list of fees.
Right.
Well, I need to see the fees to see what I need to beat.
Yep.
We get them, and then people have ended up using you.
Because sometimes the incentive, they throw it out there, we will give you X if you use our lender. Then they don't go over rates, fees, or anything. So you go, well, they're going to give me $5,000. I've got to go that route.
Right.
That's not the case. I had one just the other day. They were charging for the title policy, let's say it's $3,000, and then doing a $3,000 credit. So the client was like, well, they're giving me $3,000. I was like, let me see the estimate. And I go, I will pay your title policy for you. My estimate looks the exact same as theirs.
Right.
Like they're selling you on what I'm going to pay. They're not selling you on what am I going to charge you.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And if you're not well versed on how to read a loan estimate, I mean, there's no way for you to know sometimes.
That goes back to representation. Your agent has seen enough loan estimates that they can identify them in their sleep.
Yeah.
So they know if they see one that's bogus, looks bad, overcharging, whatever, they're going to say, hey, let's ask, that rate seems high based on the market, because you monitor what rates are doing. Right. So you would know that.
Yeah.